everyone, my name is Tara Joy Lyric. I am the Executive Director with Awaken Justice, and welcome to our channel. Today we're going to be discussing what is human trafficking, what's the definition, what are the statistics, and what do you need to know in order to be more aware so that we can end human trafficking altogether. Have you seen the movie Taken? This has become a very popular movie that people reference in terms of trafficking. However, while kidnapping of victims for sex trafficking does happen, it is not as common due to the fact that it makes a scene when they've entered into it from a manipulation standpoint or a coercion standpoint. The victim is often seen as it's their fault. So they just go along and are stuck in a trafficking situation. From the outsider's point, it'll look like their choice, but it's really not their choice. Human trafficking is the use of fraud, force, or coercion in order to obtain a sex act, labor, or organs for sale. So in essence, it's humans selling other humans for profit. Because sex trafficking is one of the more well-known versions of trafficking. Sex trafficking is the sale of another human being for sex by the use of fraud, force, or coercion. Anyone under the age of 18, however, does not need to prove that there was fraud, force, or coercion when it comes to trafficking. They just have to be sold, and that is it. But if they're over the age of 18, fraud, force, or coercion has to be there in order for it to be considered trafficking. And this is done by manipulation, by promising things. The trafficker will promise things to the victim that makes them seem like it's a situation that is better than what it is, or they'll use some type of psychological, emotional, or physical abuse in order to have them comply with what they want. And normally it happens over a period of time, especially with sex trafficking. They gain trust. They don't just kidnap and force them into the slave trade. Usually they lure them out with relationships where they gain their trust and then slowly enter them into sex trafficking. With human trafficking, there are over 40 million victims worldwide. And the problem is we know an estimated number of 40 million, but we don't know the exact number because trafficking is so underreported because victims have been threatened. They've been told no one will believe them. We told, well, it's your choice. You've been doing this based on your own free will, so nobody will believe you. There's multiple reasons why it's not reported, but it is very underreported. So we have to be understanding that there are more victims out there than we're able to count. It is the second fastest growing crime in the world because of the fact that in sex trafficking, the trafficker can sell their product multiple times during the day. They can force them to have sex multiple times, as opposed to with labor trafficking or organ harvesting. Labor trafficking, there's only 24 hours in a day. Organs, there's only so many organs that you can sell in the body. There is no end to how many times a boy or a girl, a woman can be sold for sex. 71% of trafficking victims are women because of the fact that majority of buyers are, especially in the sex industry, are male. However, there are traffickers that are women. Traffickers could be anybody. They may seem trusting on the outside. Unfortunately, there is no textbook case for what a trafficker looks like. And it's also important to know that over half, 51.6% of all victims for sex trafficking were children. The average age of a sex trafficking victim is between the ages of 12 to 14 years old. That is so young. Being minors are not going to know when they're being manipulated. They're not going to know when the person who's telling them that they love them and that they care for them, they only what's best for them, is actually untrustworthy. 90% of trafficking victims had a prior history of abuse, whether it was sexual abuse or domestic violence. Some kind of abuse in their background was a common denominator, as well as being a part of the foster care system makes them more vulnerable. This is a very lucrative business, which is why it is so underground, and it is growing rapidly. Labor trafficking is when someone is forced to work with little or no pay and in horrible working environments. This is most commonly when people are desperate to get into a better situation for their family or for their life, and so they believe the promises that the traffickers are giving them when they're offering them this once-of-a-lifetime job or a job opportunity that might be in a different state or a different country. So they go with them, and then the next thing you know, they're in a situation they did not agree to, and they're trapped because most of the times the traffickers will take their passports, their visas, so they'll feel like they have no other option. And most of the time, if they don't speak the language of the country that they're in, they won't know how to get help. So it's really important to understand that labor trafficking is happening all over the world. And with trafficking in general, the United States, Mexico, and the Philippines are the highest rated for trafficking in the entire world. This is happening in our own backyards. Trafficking of all kinds is happening here in the United States, even though we don't want to believe it. It's happening in your community, and it's happening right next door. Humans are not for sale. So it's important to understand what human trafficking is in order to know more about it, know how to spot it, and be able to end it completely. So let's recap really quick what we learned. Human trafficking is not smuggling across state lines, not smuggling across country lines. It is not kidnapping. Human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion in order to obtain a sex act, labor, or organs to obtain a profit of some kind for the trafficker. This is when people are being exploited for profit. It's modern day slavery, and humans are selling other humans, and it is a reality in your community. Thanks you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe for our videos. We're going to be uploading them once a week on different topics of trafficking, dating violence, healthy relationships, who we are in Jesus Christ. So look out for those. Subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell to get alerts. And we will see you next time.